Hi guys, last session, day one. Cool. Are we leaving the doors open or do they close? I can't remember.
They close magically.
Magically. Fantastic. Right. Right, yes, we just found out a short time ago, 45 minutes, that we didn't have 12 minutes, we got about 25, so I'm working off of a little bit of a deck, handwriting, hopefully that's not going to throw me off too much. I wanted to give a bit of background what got me into it. I've got about 31 years in IT and 8 in AI and NLP. And what got me into it was I was at a Gartner Symposium in Florida 8 years ago, and big data was all the rage. And while I was at the event, I had heard for the very first time that 85% of all data in a business is unstructured, and it's doubling every 18 months. So that really, I found it unbelievably perplexing. I had spent 2.5 decades building enterprise solutions, banking, finance, clinical information systems, insurance adjudication, full gamut, requirements definition, design, development, all the way through QA change management. And it's like, you just invalidated my career. Because if we have only captured 15% in the preceding 40 years, and it's doubling every 18 months, then whatever we're doing is not going to stand the test of time. That's really what hit me in the face. So I very quickly said, you know, I want to challenge this, and I was very, very interested in the unstructured, 85% unstructured. And then the more you look at it, it's a complete misnomer because it's not unstructured, it's just not understood by a computer. You take a contract, it's a very sophisticated piece of legal paperwork, and we as humans understand it, you know, unbelievably well, but the computer not at all. So I started thinking about that a little bit more and said, how could you make sense of this? And I had no background in this whatsoever. You know, IT guy, but nothing to do with AI and NLP. So I went to academia, and one of the things that struck me first in academia is that they're doing research for the sake of technology. They're not doing applied research. They're not trying to solve a definitive problem. They're trying to find some very, very interesting scenarios. And what I saw was just, it blew me away. And some of us, it's been talked about a lot today about the hype and the lack of delivery thus far of what's actually occurred with a lot of AI. And a lot of it's because people got very, very excited about things that worked fantastically well in a lab, but they had no business in a production setting. And the other thing I found, it was almost like religion, the various camps, whether you were machine learning, deep learning, heuristics. And I was a business guy, an IT guy. I just wanted an outcome. And I remember I partnered with a couple of universities and started to work with them. And I said, all right, well, my minimum viable product is that I need 90% accuracy without any human intervention. And they couldn't believe what I was asking of them. I said, that's impossible. And it's like, well, if you can't get it to there, no one's going to use it. Because if you can imagine, if greater than 10% of the time I asked you a question and you got it wrong, I'm going to lose trust in you. And the minute I lose trust, I'm never going to use you anymore. And it's a fundamental, we're actually very interesting intersection in my mind on a bunch of us that are preaching what we need to do and how we need to do it versus what's actually happening and whether or not we're going to have just basically a stumble and a fall, and then we'll pick ourselves back up again and get on with it, because it is coming. But in my opinion, it's way overhyped with where we've gone with it. So the accuracy tech, so digital assistants. I wanted to, when I get into it myself, I was trying to take a very specific practical slice relative to this audience. Now, relative to this audience, I've never been here before. So I was taking a little bit of a stab as to what was appropriate. And I've noticed that at one level, there's a much greater level of sophistication in the audience on pure knowledge management, knowledge managers than I may have historically been part of. But equally, the amount of attention that AI is getting, there's an entire dedicated track. And the amount of misinformation that's out there, I'm hoping that I can shed a little bit of light on you today. Or for you today. So from a digital assistant perspective, I looked at a very simplistic side of it, and I said, what if I just said there's only three things that the 99% do with documents. I realize as managers this is completely untrue, but as from an everyday user, I mean, we create and collaborate on documents, we save documents, we try to find them at a later point in time. I mean, we can make all sorts of other crazy things which actually do exist, but fundamentally at a high level, that's where we're at. So where can we go with it? So I'm going to, again, not explain to you a bunch of things you already know. And I just want to set this up. We're not supposed to be talking about who we work for, but I work for a Finnish company. That's just a little bit of a high overview. And Mfiles is the name of the organization. They have been around for 15 years. They've been in the Magic Quadrant now as a visionary for the last 5. They've been 8 in Gartner, I think 7 in Forrester. They're just not a household name in North America yet, in the States. One of their very interesting claims when they get started is that when they started 2005, they were 100% metadata based. They were all about, just tell me what it is, and I'll put it away for you. And when you need it, tell me what you need, and I'll go get it for you. They completely abstracted the aspect, so it was almost like early cloud. It's worked great, and they've been very, very successful with this. As the previous slide showed, there's 8,000 customers, and they're happy customers. I've been with the company about a year now. I was the CEO of a company that built some of this tech that I was high level just speaking to, and they were acquired. Now I'm the head of AI product management for them. Now, the Finns are a very interesting group of people. They're very, very pragmatic. And one of the things they did, just as all companies, they wanted to say, well, how can I grow my business? What's really going to be that game changer, that killer feature set that's inside of ECM? And they studied the market for almost 3 years. And some of the things they learned were, again, it's fascinating. It's very pragmatic. They had discovered that in some situations they could give their software away and the customer still would not take it, even though it was a better value prop than the product they were using. And the rationale behind it was just, there's just too much work. It's a kind of for the car people in the room, it was a conversation between a Honda Accord, Chevy Malibu, maybe a Toyota Camry. They're all good vehicles, but they're not that different when it comes right down to it. When they really asked themselves, what do you really want to do? What do people want? They said, well, we don't want to have to go to all these different places to find all these different things. And we want to be able to find things based on what it is, wherever it is, on any device, anywhere. So they struck out on that journey, which was key to the acquisition, about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, and a year ago they released this product where they actually now have, it's like enterprise search and an ECM with a workflow engine mashed together. So building on it, the minute you introduced all of these unmanaged data repositories outside of the managed, it's easy when you're actually saving the file and you need to tell me what it is. But, because that's the aspect, they were very clever. They took over the save dialog in Microsoft and you could not save a file unless you explained it yourself. So that the tagging was enforced upon you. But search was fantastic because you could actually say things like, how many customer contracts are expiring in the next 6 months? And it could answer that question. You know, because it would understand there was a contract for a customer with an expiry date. Those are key metadata tags that were installed in the first place. But once you introduced the unmanaged, it became far more complicated because we're in the same basic state. I've got a piece of document. I don't know who put it there. I don't know when it was put there. I don't know why it was put there. I don't know who worked on it. I don't know any of those things, really. So starting to build on my examples, I'm looking at this in hindsight. I probably should have done the most complex to the simple, but I'm going simple, medium, complex with the examples. And they build upon each other. Hopefully it'll make sense. So as I said, we save, we create, collaborate, excuse me, we save and we search. So when you're saving, and all of this stuff that I'm talking about, like 100% of what I'm showing you, is zero configuration, self-training. That's my personal mantra, and I believe that's actually the low water mark for users to adopt the software in this case. So when you're saving a file, what should be going on in the background? Something as simple as language detection. I don't know how often it gets spoken about, and again, it's my first time here, so if this is too simplistic, I apologize, but is it actually natural language? Is it a log file? Is it XML? Is it in English or French, German? These are pretty relevant things when you're trying to search for it at a later point in time. Duplicate management, that's probably well understood with this audience, but getting a document classification. If I had a resume in this hand and I had an invoice in this hand, all of us have got very, very strong cognitive awareness that my resume does not have an amount due or GST or tax, I'm Canadian, sorry, tax owing, or my invoice doesn't have references. We categorically know, once you know what it is, I kind of know what I need from it. And a lot of things, I've heard it a lot, we need to classify documents, and then what? Well, once I know it's an invoice, I want to know the customer, I want to know the due date, I want to know the amount. And when you start to get into that next level of information extraction, which once you know what it is, you can get to this next level. A lot of the, you can imagine, very early days of Google. If you're anyone talking to anybody about anything, you're going to get a pretty wild, high level result set back. But in the context has been said 1,000 times today already, but you need to learn context in a given setting. So just keep flipping through here. So the resume and invoice, and then you'll actually move to the metadata extraction itself. I mean, then once you have it, what else should you be doing with it? I mean, assess the document if it's got personal identifying information. And if it does, what do you want to do about it? Whatever policies as a management that you have, do you want it auto-redacted? Do you want security profiles sent on it? These are things that you shouldn't even have to think about, and the end user should not need to know what your policies are. They should be put in once. Once the document's understood, you'll do something with it. Moving to the next point, key topic matter, concepts, and document features. Again, if I had a proposal, and I held a proposal up, because I've heard so much conversation today about taxonomies and ontologies, and personally I think that's an erroneous way to go about it, because we're going back to having to ask a bunch of people to work in a repetitive fashion in a continuous nature in perpetuity. And that'll never happen. It won't. Get over it. So how do you adapt to it instead of fight it? Because every time we try to box this in and get into command and control, nothing really comes of it. So again, if I held up a proposal, if I was in the sales department versus legal versus ops, I completely extract different information and information I'm supposed to. That's one of these things. There isn't those one size fits all. We have just from job descriptions, they've got from purposes. So when you're extracting concepts and indexing behind the scenes on key topic matter and concepts, you index on all of it because you don't really know what's going to be asked of it at a future point in time. But take all of it out. And strings to things, moving to nouns, make something up on the fly. University of Stanford Department of Computer Science Artificial Intelligence Division, about 8 or 9 words. That's a single thing. It shouldn't be. It's not keywords. It's a noun the way we process it, and you need to store things in that matter. You want to store things also with document features. Does the document have once you assess it, does it have a signatory? Does it have a confidentiality clause? These are key things that you're going to want to know, again, to either apply rules, security aspects, and they all should be happening behind the scenes. Obviously, you can kick off workflow initiations and the security settings. Again, they should just be 100% automatic. And this is what, based on our ability to break things down, this is what we do. So once you finally have that document in the ECM, and theoretically with the level of intelligence that I was trying to reflect on, I mean, what can you do with it? So if you're getting into maybe intelligent type ahead, if I start to introduce your interactions with the document and not just the document itself, and I type in power, well, am I looking for a PowerPoint or power lines? Well, there's a high probability if I actually understood what you worked on, I could get that right. Artificial limbs, artificial intelligence. These are things that if you start to collect and pay attention to actually the work being done on the documents, the topic matter that's being done on the documents, you can actually start to build some very, very interesting layers. And to get the 90%, there's no one silver bullet. It's a whole series of, the more you learn, it's a kind of a simplistic thing, but the more you know, the smarter you are. And as basic as a statement that is, you have to continually just learn small aspects of the document and what to do with it. If I move on, excuse me, to query attribute expansion, this is really quite interesting. And you sort of think, when can the tool really start to help me? When can it start and be thinking for me? If someone typed in, so some of these are NLP-based terms, but stemming. If you type in the word documentation, do you want to find documents or find documentations? With acronyms, and synonyms, should VW find Volkswagen? And things like quotation, can quotation find proposal? If your software is smart enough to actually understand, and this is what I'm advocating for, how you should have ML, machine learned algorithms to actually learn acronyms. You should have ML to learn synonyms. These are the sorts of things and how we communicate with each other. We all know, nobody says international business machines very often, unless you're potentially signing a legal contract. We all know it's IBM. But these are the sorts of aspects behind the scenes that if the search engine was smart enough to take this into account, coupled between save and search. And then you'll get aspects of personalized relevance sorting. This is a very, very large topic in and of itself. Tyler, the gentleman's following me as a product manager. We could probably talk for hours about what is the user experience. And if we're dealing with this massive explosion of volume, are we really, I mean, how many of us go past the first page on Google when we're searching for anything? 5 minutes? Thanks. There's just not a lot there. We just don't. We expect it instantly. You've got to be so intelligent to try to say, what is the most relevant thing to this person right now, and moving on with it. Related documents. Why wouldn't you, in a life cycle, I've got a master services agreement, a statement of work, and a service level agreement. Why would you want one without the other two? You need to see these things. The documents have links within them. Some of this is AI, and some of it actually, when you look at it, is just some interesting little helpers. It'll make things a heck of a lot better. Similarity is also a fascinating something to add into search when you're in massive volumes of data. And we also get into summarization. And I heard some talk today about summarization saying sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There's extractive summaries, and then there's some that are built on the fly. If you ask 3 people to read the same document, and you ask them for a summary of the document, do you think any one of them are going to be exactly the same? Like, it's an impossibility. What are you trying to do? I'm trying to save you the trouble of having to open that document up to see if it is what you think you're looking for. That's all you're trying to do. So I wanted to get to this. I've just got 5 minutes left, but if you take the time and effort to start to build these incremental components to build upon themselves, you can actually truly get into collaboration assistance. The example that I've got, here's Office 365, and you'll notice Peter Harrison has sent a note, and it's actually amber, not red. It's probably washed out a little bit. And what's going on behind the scenes is I'm understanding people I'm working with, relationships I have with them, topic matter that we might be speaking about. In this case, there's a call to action. So Peter's actually asking, I'm actually looking for something, and I'm wondering if you could send it to me. And we get emails like this every day, all day long. If the tool was smart enough to index the documents and the interactions and actually understood some time sensitivities, it's actually brought this to my attention because he needs it for tomorrow. I'm sorry, I can't read it from here. I presume the example's for tomorrow. And if you actually were able then to surface it and assess options, could you actually say, well, I understand what you were making reference to. I know what we've been working on. This is, I think, the document you're seeking. In which case, you can formulate, build an email, and send it off. So from a digital perspective, discover, assess, surface, and act. And those principles are no different than actually understanding a document. It's understanding spoken word. It's all based with grammar. Something else that we're just finishing right now is actually understanding differences, material differences, the way a human speaks of things. So again, I'm working on a document with a friend, takes Friday afternoon off, he comes back on Monday morning, maybe it's a proposal, and the first thing I ask is, what did you change? Well, you don't go back from an atomic perspective and just start to explain individual, change format, and I did this. You'll actually say, well, I changed the ROI, I found a better reference. You'll explain in English the concepts that you changed. In this case, you should be able to get to a state where you actually can send a document around and it'll actually show you the material changes for you. If this is natural language understanding as you get to this state, but these sorts of examples are very capable and out there. So basically indexing it, finding very interesting ways to understand how people are working with it, and then you'll have some pretty profound time-saving attributes in any of those 3 areas. So I believe we're going to transition and have questions at the end. Mystery guest. All right. Tyler.
Oh, you gave it away.
Oh, damn. I never said it's...
Tyler, everybody knows now, it's Tyler.
Jason.
Testing. Does that sound good? All right, great. How's everybody doing today? I'll be your substitute teacher. No, thanks for having us. I know I'm the guy preventing everybody from going to happy hour, so I'll make sure I can get through this quick, but also provide some good stuff for you. So today we've talked a bunch about AI, right? So what I'm going to narrow in on, I'm going to first simplify AI for everybody in the room and kind of discuss what AI is, what are the three buckets, what are the three types of AI, and then I'm going to go into an intelligent knowledge assistant. So that is a form of an intelligent assistant. So what can Unika do for us, and how can it kind of improve our users' engagement with knowledge management initiatives as well. So as we've heard a bunch today, right, the age of AI has finally arrived. We're probably all going to be out of jobs here pretty soon. Hopefully not. But as we look at something even scarier, intelligent assistance has spawned out of this great kind of advancement in technology. And before I kind of go further, I speak a lot about AI's use in sales enablement, sales and marketing. Today, I'm not going to touch on that piece. I'm going to focus more on the knowledge management stuff, the intelligent knowledge assistant. But it's really interesting how far AI has progressed these different areas of the business and the tools that are out there. It's not about AI taking over jobs, right? It's about enhancing our productivity and efficiencies. So I'm going to start with defining the three types of AI. So essentially, these are three different buckets, right? We've got cognitive insights, process automation, and then cognitive engagements. So how do all three of these work, and what are their use cases? So cognitive insights, think of this as analytics on steroids. This type of AI is giving us the ability to predict a customer's buying journey, their interests. It's allowing marketers to launch more targeted ads based off the insights that they're able to predict, right? There's no longer kind of a manual scraping of this data and this information. AI is helping us compile this much quicker and faster. We're also looking at, the ability to really put things into categories for us. That's what cognitive insights really focuses in on, so that kind of advanced analytic stuff. When we look at process automation, this is essentially looking at, okay, what can we really outsource? If it can be outsourced, there's an RPA use case for it, essentially. So, that's kind of admin stuff, either putting, knowledge or content into, systems, repositories. That's transcribing emails, putting that into systems, updating CRMs, time and billing systems. That's actually getting stuff done. It's a physical or digital task that we're able to set up AI to enhance for us. On the cognitive engagement side, so this is the Alexas, the Siris, right? It's the chatbots, the intelligent agents, the intelligent knowledge assistants. That's more on the cognitive engagement. So that's a user engaging with AI, using natural language processing to determine what that user's intent or utterance may be, and then relaying either answers, information, or providing a central source to that user. So what is kind of an intelligent knowledge assistant? So when we look at knowledge management and kind of where an intelligent knowledge assistant can kind of fit in that space as well, there's really four buckets. The primary one is going to be getting answers faster, getting the right answers. So how can users use the cognitive engagement and technology to go through multiple sources of documents, multiple repositories, and find those right answers? Doing proactive research, routing questions to the right people within the company, and then there's the proactive knowledge capture. So go into an overview. Oh, looks like I lost my automated. Okay, we'll go with this one. Okay, so on the getting answer side, again, this is, being able to process those standard kind of FAQ type questions that you typically get from employees. So having a bank of FAQ type questions. Hey, what is our mobile phone policy? What are our vacation days? Who do I go to for commissions? Those types of questions, right, all can be inputted into an FAQ database where Intelligent Knowledge Assistant is able to pull answers from. There's other use cases where maybe it's in your CRM and you don't want to go through, maybe I've had some experiences with CRMs that are a bit complicated and take forever to find simple information like a phone number of a primary contact, right? Being able to ask an intelligent bot to, simplify that process for me, get me the information that I need at my fingertips, right? Give me that real-time response. If I know I need something, I don't want to go out and have to go through multiple systems to find it. I want to be able to get that very quickly. Also help kind of reduce the emails to colleagues, kind of going back and forth, trying to answer those same style of questions. So on the research side, if I'm maybe pursuing, new client, a new prospect, this is an RFP kind of use case, I'm typically going to need, what am I going to need? I'm going to need certain assets, right? I'm going to need to know who in our organization would be the best team or the best fit for this response. So I need to find those experts within the organization. If it's, again, maybe more on the asset side, I need our standard kind of pitch decks or service offering decks for this industry. Where would I go to find those? Asking Unika or an intelligent knowledge assistant, hey, I need help preparing an RFP for this type of company. These are items that are actually happening now, right? This is what AI is being able to do for us. So kind of automate these processes, do that back-end research stuff for us, give us the information that we need so we can be more efficient, more productive. I'm going to jump into the actual demo now so I can show you guys a little bit better of what this technology looks like in action. All right, doesn't duplicate. All right, so this is just a demo environment, a fictitious law firm, right? This would be kind of an example of going to their intranet page, and in this case, maybe I'm a new sales rep, right? I'm responding to that use case that we just mentioned about the RFP. I noticed there's this kind of bot in the lower corner. And in a typical user experience, I'm going to always say hello because that's polite. Hello, maybe what can you do for me would be a better question, right? But these are the three things that this intelligent knowledge assistant is really set up to do. And that's those FAQs, those standard FAQs. Those are the finding experts within the organization. That's finding assets or content that's relevant for my use case. So in this example, I'll run through a couple examples of what that looks like, right? So hey, I'm really interested in what our mobile phone policy is because I want to get some credit back. So this is more of a standard FAQ style question. So instead of getting a document or an asset, I'm getting a direct response, a direct answer in real time. I don't need to bug our HR team on what that is or what that's going to look like, right? I could do something even more simple that probably the internet team, the IT team would appreciate. What is the Wi-Fi password? It's not the Wi-Fi password for this room, but example, right? So these are those static kind of FAQ style questions that aren't really going to change very much, but they get asked a bunch within the organization, right? Now I'm going to move on to something a little bit more complicated. So maybe I'm mobile. In this case, is a legal firm, so I'm a lawyer. I want to find another attorney within the firm that has experience in a particular legal service that we offer, IP litigation, for example, right? So I'm on the go. I'm going to be able to interact essentially with Unika mobile as well. but I would say, who knows IP litigation? So instead of going through, a giant kind of company directory, I'm able to ask Ika instantly and get all of the folks within the organization that have IP litigation as a tagged skill set within their profile. And again, that's could either be through, your HRIS system. In this example, it's pulling data in the taxonomy that's plugged into the Unika instance. But Ika, an intelligent knowledge assistant, is able to kind of do that in multiple style of environments that it's sitting on. So now I'm able to obviously see the people. Now maybe I'm going further into this RFP. So I found the people, but now I need templates. I need some assets. So let's dig a little bit deeper for that stuff. So here I'm going to look for, latest. So now I have a location that I'm able to visit to find those types of documents, the sales templates. I believe I just typed in sales template. Sorry, I can't read. There's no duplicate. Latest sales template, right. And Ika's spitting back, I'd recommend checking out the sales enablement portal for the latest winning pitches, templates, and press releases. I'm going to throw on an example of like an utterance. So, not having kind of a defined question. Sometimes I don't really like typing too much. So maybe I'm looking for that example, like a press release. Instead of saying, where are our press releases or where are our latest news and press releases, Ika is smart enough in this instance, based on kind of user engagement, right? With a machine learning, natural language processing model, it's getting smarter as users interact with it. What's also not shown here, users would be able to rate the responses. So if it spit out exactly what I needed, give it 4 or 5 stars. If it was completely off, giving me a link to, a legal document, not a press release, 1 star. So it can consume that information, that data, and really get smarter as users engage with it. So that's kind of an example of where I'd be able to find something. Things like this might have frozen on me. Oh, there we go. It's the hotel Wi-Fi is coming in. Okay, 5 minutes? Okay, got it. I did want to run through. So I'll show you guys kind of the back end stuff. I know that's not always the most exciting. But when we talk about, some questions I get a bunch are, how does security work with these types of assistants, right? If I'm asking them to find, assets or documents, that could be kind of scary, right? What if they spit back some really sensitive information? Luckily, the technology has progressed to such a stage as well and kept up with this technology that we're able to really define, user roles, types, set privileges. I'm able to set by department or teams, set up those types of roles and say, folks in maybe marketing, they don't need to see some sensitive IT documentation or workflows and processes. Or maybe it's my customer service team and they're on the phones and I'm trying to, kind of reduce the call times that they're engaging with folks. But I don't want them accessing, other legal stuff. You can set up those types of teams on the back end in the FAQ menu here to where they're really only getting stuff that they would use in their day-to-day, right? So that's kind of a manual process, but you need those security features before you kind of roll something out that's powerful enough to, scan multiple environments and digital ecosystems and relay information. So always have security kind of top of mind when deploying an intelligent knowledge assistant. They're very advanced, so to speak, and can deliver really powerful results. So in this, environment, I'm not here to pitch you on Unika or anything like that, but that's something that's enabled and secure and set up. How much more time do I have? 4? Okay. I think I'll wrap up with, some use case scenarios that we're kind of working with organizations on that I find kind of particularly interesting. One's a large hotel chain, and they came to us with a knowledge management problem of saying, hey, we really want our employees, when they're working the grounds of the hotel and they have, guests come up to them and say, hey, what events do you guys have going on tonight? Or, what is the menu? They're at the pool and they're like, what is the menu at the 5-star restaurant inside? What's on that? What are the specials, right? Just having that stuff, those answers right in real time for the guests. So we worked on kind of deploying a solution with them that gave all these different teams, these different departments, really a central kind of location for that, but also put on an ICA, an intelligent knowledge assistant, that would help them so that if the worker wasn't able to find that themselves, they'd be able to ask ICA that. Once they kind of saw the power of ICA with their internal workers, they actually ended up rolling out an external solution to the guests. So more of kind of a self-service type model where guests could then go to ICA and ask those same exact questions on the hotel's website. So if very standard questions, right? Hey, what's the room rates look like for these dates that I'm thinking about booking a room, or if I want to put my wedding here, what do the typical costs look like for that? Maybe you don't want to provide those types of answers, and that's another example of where an intelligent knowledge assistant would be able to route those types of questions to a specific individual in the organization. Maybe it's they want to book a conference room. What are the rates for that? Link that chat up with the sales manager responsible for booking conference rooms. So there's, I think, still a lot of question marks on, okay, this is very powerful stuff, like, how can we go about using this? And I think it really kind of depends on, two things, right? What are your users having challenges with? Is it mobile? Is it getting answers? Where can you improve efficiencies? Is it on your customer services side? Is it on your operations? Is it your sales and marketing teams looking to enhance efforts and kind of reduce that RFP process? So it's not so much about a technology solution. It's more about a business challenge and a business outcome that I think is always the most important to think about when rolling out an intelligent knowledge assistant. So I think I'll wrap up with that.